Donald Trump is a traitor. He's a traitor to this country. He tried to overthrow an American election. I got angry, really angry, because I thought about the fact that Donald Trump began lying about the 2020 election months before the election. In the summer of 2020, Trump first said to his supporters, his voters, he first said, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to win or it will be stolen from me. Trump said that before the election, months before the election. I was on conservative talk radio at the time, and I could hear how angry Trump supporters were getting. So by the time the election day came, they were primed to be violent.
Well, we heard from the ITV's correspondent there who'd been talking to a lot of these groups well in advance of this and said that, it was very obvious that something of this nature was going to happen. That's why they were there, because they knew it would. And they were surprised that kind of almost everybody else got caught out by it.
It's stunning that anybody was surprised, because I would second that again. Because I come from the Republican Party base, I'm a former Tea Party congressman. I talk to these folks all the time, and I would hear them get angrier and angrier and angrier every day leading up to the election. And then once the election happened, and once Joe Biden was declared the winner, the threats of violence were out there publicly. One of the great stories of January 6th is how unprepared our officials were for what was clearly in front of all of us.
And I mean, from talking to you, you sound very clearly as if you're not a Trump Republican. Does it surprise you that so many of your former colleagues, so many of your supporters, your voter base, the membership of your party still hold a candle for this man, given the way that he behaved and in such in an almost undemocratic and un-American way at the end?
No, and think about what I'm about to say. Donald Trump is a traitor. He's a traitor to this country. He tried to overthrow an American election. He attacked our democracy. And yet, damn near all of my former Republican colleagues still stand with him. Why? Because Donald Trump still holds a majority of the Republican Party base. And as long as Republican Party voters stand with him, all of my cowardly former colleagues will stand with him as well. It's not Trump, it's the voters that they're afraid of.
Now, I mean, that is very strong language, Joe. Donald Trump is a traitor. That is as bold and unequivocal. Calling your former colleagues cowardly, that is strong in itself and inflammatory language. I mean, do you understand that by being so strong in your conviction, that makes it harder to take away some of the contentiousness, the culture wars, the political wars, whatever you want to call it, in a country that's clearly not over this incident, clearly not healed yet?
I just go back to this. In this great, good country, in this democracy of ours, I would argue the world's greatest democracy, we had an insurrection. There was a violent attempt to overthrow an election. Who did that? Who led that? Who incited that? Donald Trump. That was an attack on our government. That was an attack on this country. Donald Trump led that. Of course, he's a traitor. Look, I think if we don't call that out for what it is, and if we don't call him out for what he is, it will happen again, and he may get elected again. I talk to his supporters every day, and I try to be as respectful as I can to them and just engage in dialogue with them, certainly. But when it comes to Trump, no. We have to call him out for what he is.
So what do you say to somebody then who's also, I guess, on this issue, on your side of the Republican Party, somebody like Liz Cheney, daughter of Dick Cheney, the former vice president, who it has cost her career and her future within the Republican Party. It's cost her a number of death threats and threats of violence against her. To sit on the House committee, make sure that it's bipartisan, and find the answer that said what Donald Trump did was wrong here.
Look, I thank Liz Cheney for what she did, and I thank my former friend and colleague Adam Kinzinger for what he did. But I would tell them both the same thing. I realized almost 3 years ago that there's no home for me in this Republican Party. And Liz Cheney, whether she admits that or not, the same thing holds for her. And I tell her the same. This Republican Party isn't going to change. I mean, Liz Cheney got destroyed in her Republican primary in her state this past year. Sadly, there's no place in this party for any Republican like Liz or myself who not only opposes Trump, but opposes what this party has become, a really authoritarian embracing party. She's got to realize that.
And how then does the grand old party, it's been around for over 100 years, the Republican Party, ever come back to a sense of moderation if people like you and Liz Cheney and others leave?
It may not, and it probably won't. I'm not a young man, I'm not an old man, but I don't think in my lifetime this party is going to change. And that makes me so sad. I wish there was a hope that it could, but it's on this path. And if Trump isn't the nominee in 2024, the nominee is going to be the Trumpiest candidate. And right now that's Ron DeSantis.
I was about to say, so we've talked about Ron DeSantis on our show here in the UK before to get a kind of idea of the man, former military, big state governor in Florida. You know, he's got some executive experience there. But in terms of a sense of what he's like, I mean, is he a man to heal the wounds of the party and the country?
No, he's a man to be the sequel to Trump. He's Trump the next version. That's clearly what he's trying to do because he's no dummy. He knows if you want to be the leader of this Republican Party, you have to lie. You have to inflame your base, and you have to go after your political enemies, go after them really hard. That's what they want, and that's what DeSantis is going to give them. Now, does DeSantis really believe in all of that? I don't know. I know him. I don't know, but he's doing what he thinks he has to do to succeed Trump.
Well, we've talked about some really big themes here, Joe, but let's come down to a smaller level, to the kind of the tangle that's happening, the procedural tangle that's happening right now in Congress over the election of the Speaker. I'm a former frontline politician in the UK that's now on the radio, and quite often politicians will get caught up in something that is, you know, hugely dominates their bubble and their world and how they're seeing things, but actually has very little impact on people outside who are worried about making their mortgage, who are worried about their jobs, who are worried about their kids' education, etc. And it doesn't really impact procedurally. This now dragging into its fourth day strikes me as the sort of thing that does have a crossover, and it has an impact on the fact that here are the Republicans unable, you know, to make a decision, to be able to operate within the system, to make the system work, and that sometimes you can get frustration within the public if they see politicians that get paid a lot of money but appear not to be doing their job because there's some fight over something that they don't understand.
If this continues for a few weeks, it will become an issue for the American people. Look, January 6th made America look bad. What's happening right now is making the Republican Party look bad. It's not a crisis. It's one party who's incompetent and dysfunctional, not even able to pick their leader, and they're having their fight in public. I wish it wasn't in public. I wish they all got behind closed doors. I wish they'd done that a week ago and hammered this out. But this goes to show how dysfunctional this party is, and really how the party, and it's most evident in the House, because the House, I served in the House reflects where the base of the party is. most of the Republicans in the House are Trumpist, mega Republicans. The vast majority of House Republicans are election deniers, not just these 20 who are opposing McCarthy. Most of the conference are election deniers. So this portends 2 years of utter dysfunction.